Welcome back to another episode of Just Talking with Joe Burdick. My next guest, I'm excited to talk to. We spoke on the phone. His name is Steve. He's an Air Force veteran. He's got an amazing story to tell. I don't want to give too much of it away, but he's got an amazing story. I'm excited to let him share his story with everybody. I think you're going to like this. So, let me bring Steve onto the stage here. Steve, how's it going?
Hey Joe, how you doing?
I'm doing great.
Loving life.
That's good.
It's the good Lord has given me not just a second chance, but multiples, and I am this time going to take full advantage of all of it.
That's awesome. Yeah, I started this platform. There's a billion people out there doing podcasts, and I wanted just another outlet. First of all, I wanted another place for veterans like us to tell our story. You know, what I did in the Navy, nobody ever shot at me. The things I did were pale in comparison to, almost, battle hardened, like our mutual friend Shiloh Harris. I mean, I've never had to face anything, remotely close to that, but I wanted an outlet for veterans to tell their story if they wanted to. I also wanted to have something where I could just talk to interesting people. I'm not an interviewer. I'm not in the media. This thing isn't monetized. It's just a couple of guys talking. That's why I named it.
Yeah.
Just Talking with Joe Burdick. And I'm excited to, talk to you. You are an Air Force veteran. What was the Air Force like? What was boot camp in the Air Force like? Let's start at the very beginning. What was boot camp
at the very beginning?
I mean, did they teach you guys how to swivel the chairs just right?
Well, actually, I'm in a good one right now.
How to fix a paper cut?
They don't call it the chair force for nothing. we send our officers to do all the hard work.
No,
as they say. No,
what made you want to join the Air Force? Let's start there.
I was 11 years old, and me and my dad was heading south from Crystal River, Florida. He had a plumbing job to do, and we were heading south of Tampa, and I happened to notice several aircraft flying over the top of us, and it happened to be the Thunderbirds. Oh, nice. And they were practicing for the air show. And of course, I didn't know anything about them at that time. And my dad told me who they were and stuff. So I got home and broke out the encyclopedia that kids don't even have a clue about nowadays.
Right.
And researched the Thunderbirds, and it's like, damn, that's pretty.
Were they the F-16s back then?
Yes. Yeah.
Those are nice.
They had just got them, and not too long. Let's see. Yeah. 11, 12, 13. About the age of 13 is when 4 of them became lawn darts. Unfortunately, I mean, they don't call the F-16 a lawn dart for nothing. But anyhow, I fell in love with that, and it's like, okay, Air Force, planes. I love planes. Okay, and got in high school, ROTC, it was Navy, ROTC. And we had a Marine pilot come in and talking about Marine Corps and what he did. And it's like, I like that even better. So I went to Marine Corps first, and I asked them, or wanted to be crew chief on Black Hawks, yada, yada, yada. And they said, nope, you can come in like this or nothing else. They want to put me in infantry, and no, I didn't want just to go pound sand somewhere. And the Air Force did offer me that as a guaranteed job.
Now, they wouldn't even, the Marines wouldn't even offer you Harriers or F-18s? Really?
No, they were, of course, this is back in 88. And we were peacetime. I mean, we had been peacetime for quite a while. So it was, they wanted all of the good jobs, nobody was leaving, as they say. And so I went to the Air Force, and they guaranteed me Blackhawks, crew chief, the whole 9 yards. And so I did. Day 6 of basic training. Everybody that has a guaranteed job stand on one side. Everybody that's waiting for a job stand on the other. There's 7 of us back then, and we're standing there. They call the first 6, and then I'm standing there and twiddling my thumbs, and they start calling the other side. And then, of course, I had a TI come in and get my face. What the hell are you standing here for? And all this stuff. And it's like, well, my name ain't been called. What do you mean? And here's the paperwork. Showed him, and he looks at it and goes, starts flipping through his stuff, and he says, I don't see your name in here. What the hell? So he went to the colonel, come back and said, Airman, I got some bad news for you. You lost your job. It's like, excuse me. And long story short, one piece of paper wasn't signed. And I lost the job. So they gave me Full Bird gave me the option of staying in and accepting another career or send my ass home. And it's like, okay, well, what am I going to be? Well, we don't know. Well, give me the plane ticket. Hold on, you know the story and how it goes. You got to pick and choose and fight and dig and crawl for every little thing. And that's basically what I did. And he comes back. I ended up getting a second stripe. And they said, you are going to, the colonel goes, you're going to be in civil engineering. Okay, what's that? You're going to be in base water maintenance and sewer. And I looked at him, and day 6 of basic training now, no hair. I looked at him and I said, sir, I'm going to be a fucking plumber. Excuse my French, but I mean,
think that is French.
Yeah. And he looked at me and said, excuse me, Airman. I said, sir, first. And he goes, yes, Airman, you're going to be a plumber. And my head dropped. It's like, why? And he goes, well, I'm looking at your paperwork, and because of what you're supposed to do before, you know how they do the background checks. And it says your dad is a plumbing contractor, and you've been doing it since you was 6 years old. And according to this, you have been running your own plumbing truck for the last 18 months. Yeah, that's true. And he said, well, according to all this, you probably got more experience than some of the instructors at tech school. And I did. Tech school was a breeze. For me, I just like, okay. Yeah, okay. I mean, it literally, everything that they taught, I have been doing since I was 12, literally. And so I breezed through it and ended up getting orders to Edwards Air Force Base, California. I am a true blue Floridian, born and raised right here, other than a few years, summer times in Georgia, Florida. So I'm a Florida boy. Yeah, I do some crazy shit. Yeah.
No, come on now.
Oh, yeah. Oh, trust me. We're waiting for a certain thing to happen, and when it gets filmed, we will go viral for that video, guaranteed. And hopefully it happens next week, but we'll see. But no, I got Edwards. Literally dirt, rocks, Joshua trees, and I'm used to trees, grass, and rain. My NCOIC in the plumbing shop, he calls me into the office and he says, is all this true? And it's like, yes, sir. I'm not, sir. And it's like, okay, yes, Sergeant. And he goes, much better. He goes, you're going to ride along with me for this week. And because I'm going to be your FTO, we're going to see how good you are, type of thing. And at the end of the week, on that Friday afternoon, he looks at me and he said, well, you're checked off. Come Monday morning, that truck over there is yours. And who's going to be my supervisor? You.
Hmm.
I looked at my shoulder and I said, I'm just an airman first class. He said, yeah. He said, but how many years true experience do you have as a plumber? And I said, well, I'm 19 now. And I was going pretty much every day from the time I was 11 till now. Every summer I spent working with my dad. There's times that he called me, he'd actually come get me out of school to do something because I was small enough to go crawl this or do that type of thing. And so you name it, I did it. And he said, you have more experience than anybody in there except one person. And I kind of looked and it's like, okay. He said, the only thing you got to learn around here is where everything's at. And he said, you're on your own. And he said, first thing I want you to do is I want you to be on the water main team. And any water breaks, it's all yours. Okay. And very next day, we had an 8-inch main go down. And it was one of them things back and forth. And the first year and a half, I had water mains, sewer mains, from literally 1/2 inch pipe all the way up to 72-inch pipe I've worked on at Edwards. I mean, granted, Edwards is, 49? 49 when they built Edwards, maybe even earlier. So you think about infrastructure. So it was rough. And this is back in 88 to 92. I'd hate to see what it looks like now.
I never thought of this, that the Air Force would actually have, a job for a plumber.
Well,
I never would have thought that. Now I know the Navy has got, the CBs.
CBs. That's exactly what my job was in the Air Force.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. I was a base plumber and sewer. Mm-hmm. My MOS at the beginning. And then I got put on what we call the rodeo team. And what that does is you have a specific specialty, which mine, of course, was plumbing. But then we had a carpenter, we had a heavy equipment operator, we had a reefer guy, we had heating, we had, what else is there? The electrical. So, all of those, we had one of each, 12-man team. And what we would do is literally our job was to go out and practice setting up a temporary Air Force base. And, we could end up setting up a building and getting the cover on it, a 12-man hut. We could get all of that done in under an hour. And that's cutting all the lumber and everything else by hand. There is no electrical stuff. This was all hand saws and all that. We could put it all together in less than an hour, get up water filtration system. So that's what we did we get called. We go somewhere. Okay, this is where we're going to set up the Air Force base. Our landing strip's over there. Water's over here, type of thing. That's what we did. And Desert Storm kicked off. We thought we were going, and we left. We come back. Well, I mean, it was a nightmare. And I never ended up putting boots on the ground during all of that. Stayed at Edwards. And about halfway through my career, I ended up being asked, volunteer. Let's see, what was, how do they put it? I was not volunteered. I was, oh crap. And you are volunteered to do something without being asked. I lost you. Oh, there it is.
No, there you are.
So it's like, what is that? And he said, you're going to be on the crash rescue and recovery team along with the rodeo team. It's like, okay. We haven't had anything since I've been there other than a B1B come in and do a nose put the nose down and cause a little bit of damage. But other than that, we didn't really have anything spectacular until after I got on that team. And it was 2 days after I'm on the team. I'm standing out back at our shop and I'm watching this Huey doing some exercises, and it's going up and coming down and going up and coming down type of thing. And it rolled up and then upside down. And I watched a tail rotor just start go off on its own and into the ground. 6 people. Yeah. I watched that. That one was rough. Of course, we're calling for, say, hey, we just watch this, and we go, and 6 bodies later, yeah, that was, and then we had one more helicopter explode before I got out in '92. And so from there, it was like, okay, I got back into plumbing with my dad for a year, and I was sick of it. I was done. I went in the Air Force to get out of plumbing, and ended up in plumbing in the Air Force, and then got out of the Air Force and ended up back in plumbing again. And my dad kind of wanted me to follow in his footsteps, and I didn't have the passion for it like he did. Just didn't. And the crash rescue recovery thing kind of lit a little bit of fire. And a friend of mine in Okeechobee comes by the house after he sees that I'm home, and I was home probably 3 or 4 days. And he comes by, says, hey, and all of a sudden his pager goes off. I'm like, what the hell's that? And he says, it's my volunteer pager. Volunteer pager for what? And he said, fire department. And it's like, what? You go up there and wash trucks? He said, oh, no. And he said, we get to go on all the good calls. And it's like, really? And so the next day I went up there, talked to the volunteer chief, told him who I was and what I did and all that kind of good stuff. And he said, fill out this piece of paper. And I did. And he said, okay, follow me. And I did. And next thing I know, I'm holding a pair of bunker gear and said, get ready. And he said, you are now officially a volunteer for Okeechobee County Fire Rescue. Okay. And I had a few small calls over the next couple of weeks, but we were up there riding along with the guys, and we get a call for a structure fire, and this thing was rocking. We seen the flames from 7 miles away. And then halfway there, we get a call saying that there's possibly a victim. And unfortunately, there was, and that was my first fire fatality. And with Okeechobee, I had personally 3 of them, home fires, and then we had an airplane go down January 5th of '94. January 5th of '94 here in Okeechobee that had 10 people on board.
Whoa.
Yeah, I worked that one too. That one affected me for quite a while because I drove by that area heading out of town doing stuff every other day or whatever it was. And for the longest time, they'd have flowers, and it was a wedding party. Bride and groom. It was the bride's mother, father, brother, the groom's mother, father, brother. The pilot was the uncle of the bride, and the only person that not related on that was the co-pilot. And he was the chief for Metro-Dade Miami Fire Rescue. So, yeah. And so with all that, it's like, okay, I want to do this as a full-time career. And so I used my GI Bill to put myself through fire school, EMT school. And I told Okeechobee, I said, y'all got the opportunity to hire me, but if you don't, I'm going to be looking other places. I said, if I get hired here, I'm not leaving. And well, anyhow, they ended up hiring 3 paramedics, and I looked at them and said, okay. So I put in for several departments, and Martin County called me up right before Christmas of '94 and said, Mr. Cohn, would you like a job full-time, Martin County Fire Rescue? Absolutely. When can you start? I said, December 26th, let's go. And so that started my career in Martin County. And it's crazy how that particular day has affected my life more times than not. I'll explain that here shortly. But December 26, '94, I became a Martin County Fire Rescue firefighter, EMT. I got through my training, as they say, quick, fast, and in a hurry because of all the stuff that I did for Okeechobee for 2.5 years. They really liked the Air Force with the plumbing. It was like, okay, we know you can do the job. And they put me out as a floater, and I floated around to several stations. Ended up in Indiantown, which is a small community, kind of like a third world country. Actually, it was, or kind of still is. CNN actually did a story on Indiantown and how it is a third world country back in 90, 95, 97, 01, somewhere right in that area. And so I loved it. And then a simple slip and fall, January 15th of 99, changed my life forever. I'm going to back up just a hair. While I was in the Air Force, we had a hangar fire deluge system go off because a jackass crew chief decided to light off an F-16 and the nozzles was facing towards the hangar. Well, with the HUD system, the heat activated device HAD system, all it does is it has to be a significant temperature change and the valves open and you're dumping copious, and I mean copious amounts of water. Well, inside this particular hangar was 2 brand new F-15 Strike Eagles, and the canopy was off. Both hoods were off on both of the engines, and we got a deluge coming in, and we can't get it shut it off. We can't get the deluge system shut off by pushing a button. And so we had to manually shut it down. And when we did, I fell into the valve box and cracked my kneecap. They fixed it. They fixed the kneecap, but they didn't get bone fragments out of the cartilage. So now fast forward to getting out and become a firefighter. I did that till January of 99, and a simple slip in oil. I rode my leg to the right and blow my right knee completely out. ACL, MCL, PCL, medial meniscus. Yeah, it was a disaster. So I ended up with work comp, not realizing it was military related till multiple years later. And so I get treated by work comp. The first doctor went in the knee and he says the knee's FUBAR. I need a total knee replacement. Work comp said no. So I ended up with 8 operations, 8 operations on the knee in a 48-month time frame. And in that 48 months, those 8 operations, every one failed. Yeah, my luck. I mean, this was a disaster, just a disaster upon disaster. But in the end, looking at all of it, it was the good Lord teaching me lessons, showing me this, and preparing me for what I am doing now. Yeah, I ended up with a total knee operation number 9. Let's see, it was about 50 months after injury is when I got the total knee. 4 months after the total knee was in, it was broke by the doctor because scar tissue locking the knee up. Yeah, and so the prosthesis was still within working limits, but it wasn't perfect like they had it. And so for 6 years, I fought it, and then I got a second total knee. That lasted 2 years, and I was literally at the end of that. My right leg was a boat anchor. It was literally a boat anchor. I walked sideways. If any grass or anything like that, I walked sideways instead of normal. And within all of that, I pain management for 15 years. Pain management's supposed to be short term, not 15 years. You name a narcotic, I could tell you how much I was taking it in at that particular medication. At the height of my pill addiction that was basically hand fed to me by the doctors. I mean, it wasn't like I was intending to get hooked on the shit, but when the doctor said, "Well, you're hurting here, take this one. Well, let's try this one."
So when you were going to these doctors, that wasn't the VA?
Oh, okay. Not in the beginning. No, this was partly, and if you see the how they do narcotics now for basically the entire United States, Florida was the epicenter of the pill addiction. I'm one of the reasons why it was changed.
Hmm.
Um, when I say I was taking narcotics, 120 milligrams of methadone a day is plenty. Plenty. But add 120 milligrams of methadone, a Percocet on top of it. One more. 160 milligrams of Oxycontin a day. I did that for 3 years.
Wow.
Yeah. Addicted, absolutely. Looking back at it now, it was crazy what I would do to continue the addiction. And unfortunately, I was dealing with pain on top of it. So, I mean, it wasn't, it was hurting and fed up with it all. And all those narcotics, I went off the deep end, as they can say. And when the good Lord woke me up from the meds, I actually had a pain management doctor appointment that day. And I told the doc when I got there, we're done. I'm done. I can't do this no more. I'm not functioning. I'm not a dad. I'm not a human being. And I said, first thing we're going to do is cut all this shit in half. And he looked at me like I was nuts. And then from there, 18 months later, I took my last pill. Was it hard? It was extremely hard.
And you were still down in Florida at that time?
Yeah, I was still in Florida. And it was, had lost my dad, or no, in that time frame, me and my dad had a falling out. And this is part when I was at the end of the taking these meds. And November of 16, actually Veterans Day of November 2016, I lost my dad. Granted, he was an alcoholic, royal pain in my ass when he drank, but he was still my dad. And losing him put me into a spiral. And then, of course, you got Christmas right there. And then December 26th, like I said, that day has got more meanings than you'd believe. December 26th, 2016, I am in Florida. I am in Port St. Lucie, Florida, actually, excuse me. And I'm supposed to be getting ready to load the truck up and take my son to a Georgia football game.
How old was he?
It's just me.
At the time?
He was at that time 17. No, let's see. Yes, 17. 17. And I knew that my eldest, which was at that time 22. I knew my eldest, if anything were to happen to me, that he would step up. And I did the most selfish act in the world. I put a 357 to my head and I pulled the trigger. The bullets were good. I just bought them 30 minutes earlier. And when I did, I looked up and said, "Why'd you keep me here?" I pulled the bullet out, looked at it. It should have went off my hand. I put it back in there, spun the cylinder around, closed it up, pulled the hammer back. It goes back into the firing position. I pull the trigger, pointed at the ground, and it goes off. I look up again and say, "Why did you keep me here?" And from that point, I tried to take my son to a football game. That fell apart. I mean, it just one thing after another. And my son turned 18 February of 17. Yes. And at that point, it was like, okay, you're an adult. I tried working things out, and finally October of 17, I took my youngest back to his eldest brother in Michigan. And that's how I kind of ended up back in Michigan. I had a falling out with both of them right at that time. Partly, granted, my brain was not good. And I walked away. I said, "Y'all are adults. You handle it. I'm done." And I did. And next thing I know, I'm walking the streets of Lansing, Michigan, homeless. I had at that time, because it was still considered work comp, I was just getting a small Social Security check per month. And that, of course, that wasn't last no time. Barely paid for food. And so I was on the streets November and December of 2017 in Lansing, Michigan. Yeah. I found out
That's a
about a
bad
VA
time of
program.
year. That's a bad time of year in Michigan too.
Don't you know it?
Hmm.
I like to have froze my natural born ass off. But again, why'd you keep me here? And I end up in a VA shelter January of 18. And there, while I'm there, I meet 19 of the most genuine, screwed up guys you'd ever met. I was number 20. It's every one of them was a veteran. Every one of them has a similar story to mine. And we were there to help each other fight through whatever demons we were fighting for or fighting with, and to get back on our feet. I was one of the lucky ones to able to beat those demons and get back on my feet. July of 18, I was able to get in a small apartment and start climbing that proverbial ladder, as they say again, in life. And things started working out a little bit better. Fast forward to July of 19, and I have received my VA disability, and I'm at 100%. And so I get a nice little, no, that was 20. I'm sorry, 20. And it's like, okay, what do I do? In the meantime, they had taken my leg February of 20 after 3 years of fighting with them. And 2 weeks after my leg was gone, I was completely out of pain for the first time in 21 years.
And you told
And I
me on
mean,
the phone. You told me on the phone that you told them to take it. You're done.
I did. It was January 17, actually, when I got back into the VA shelter. One of the stipulations was that you had to get back into the medical VA side and get your shit together, basically. So I did. I ended up going to the Ann Arbor. No, Battle Creek VA. Got re-registered for all of it, and when I left that facility that day, I walked out with a garbage bag handle of medications. Now, granted, I have just went through all of that horse manure with the narcotics, and I'm walking out with 22 different pills. And I look at them, it's like, okay, they're giving them to me, but it doesn't mean I actually have to take them. I took 16 out of the 22. So, I mean, I still took a bunch of them. And I got fed up with all of it. And finally, my son, I'm kind of jumping right here at this moment. One thing that helped me was medical cannabis. And from those 22 pills getting on the medical cannabis, the 22, actually 16, but I am now literally taking 3. 2 of those are vitamins. So I will say this has helped me, and we'll leave it at that. But once they took my leg, after fighting them with 3 years, being on the table, or actually on the table, sitting in a psychiatrist's office 3 different times, 2 hours per, the psychiatrist called the doctors up and said, take it. He knows what he's doing. He knows the consequences if it goes south, as in more phantom pain, more pain type of thing. And it's like, yeah, I understand all that. Take this SOB now. Well, they fought it for 3 years. In February of 20, when President Trump signed the Community Care Act, I get a phone call. Not very long after that, to be in an orthopedics office. I'm in an orthopedics office. He looks at me and says, Mr. Cohen, your leg's foobar. I know that. And he said, you got 2 options. And this is the crazy thing. I looked at him and said, option number 1 is take the prosthetic out that's in there now, all of the hardware, and take a rod and insert it to where my leg does not bend. He goes, correct. And I said, well, doc, I said, I'm at that point now without the rod. I said, my leg range of motion is from +4 to +14. I could move my leg that much. I mean, literally that much. And so I said, no. I said, now, option number 2 is amputation. He said, correct. I said, take it. And he said, when? I said, as soon as possible. And he said, okay, how about next Friday? I was like, okay. Up to what? I'm thinking a couple of months. You know how the VA dragged your feet. And he said, okay. They did, took the leg, 2 weeks post-op. I'll crutch into his office, holding 2 months and 3 weeks of morphine 30s and hand them back to him. He asked why, and I said, doc, I don't need them. I said, they're for pain. He said, correct. I said, well, if you ain't got pain, you don't need them. He said, correct. I said, well, I don't have pain. And that was 2 weeks after my leg was gone. So you can't tell me that the good Lord works in mysterious ways. I mean, he just does. Got a good sense of humor sometimes. Wicked sense of humor quite a bit. But it's, so they took the leg, 2 weeks, I'm out of pain. And it's like my head cleared, the fog lifted out of my whole head because all I'd worried about was that pain and dealing with it each day. How can I make this pain a little bit less today for me to even accomplish something? And once the leg was gone and that pain was gone, my brain kind of went haywire and I couldn't shut down. For several days after that, I could not shut my brain down. And finally did get some sleep. And it was, I don't know. It was how crazy how all of it did. I ended up having to go back in the hospital, thinking that I had an infection in the leg, and ended up being COVID. This is in 20 when they did, right at the beginning. I was told I was the second person in Michigan to actually be diagnosed with COVID. Not too long after the operation, it was like 4 weeks. Yeah, I'm spiked a fever, and it was a nightmare. And in that time frame, I come across the video of Nick Rand talking about what he does in Minnesota with veterans, and it's like I thought that was pretty cool. So I sent him a text message, say, "Hey, you got a minute to talk?" And we ended up talking that day about 3 hours, I think it was, something in that area. And in the end of it, he told me I needed to start a nonprofit. I was like, dude, I just got my full benefits and I'm getting my full Social Security now. And you want me to do what? It's like, no. This boy is going to take his dog and one of those fishing poles right back there and go fishing. That was my plan. And he said, no, you need to start a nonprofit and tell your story and how fishing helped you get to where you're at. And it's like, I thought about it for a little while and called him back up and said, man, we'll see. And then, of course, he come back to me and he said, I want you to tell me that story one more time about one of the veterans in the VA shelter that drug your ass to a pond. It's like, what? He said, I want you to tell it to me. It's like, all right. I'm sitting in the VA shelter. It is around April of 18. I'm in my head like there's no tomorrow. And a younger veteran that didn't have a pot to piss in went to Walmart and bought 2 rod and reels and had a tackle box with just enough gear in it to get us in trouble. That's it. So we borrowed the van from the shelter, and he back up. He drugged me out of the chair and said, you're going. No ifs, ands, and buts about it. I bought this rod for you, and you're going to use it, damn it. He's like, no. And in the end, he drugged me out of the shelter, took me to this pond, and there was 100 people there fishing. And I looked at him and was like, we ain't going to catch a damn thing. Nothing. I said, there's too many people. Too small of a pond, too many people. It's overfished. I said, I know my fishing. He goes, we're still going. I'm like, no. And then it happened. We had two teenage kids, I'd say 16, 17. At least one of them was 16. There's driving. Anyhow, they come walking up to our car or by our car, and they looked at it and said, man, y'all two old farts need to just pack it up right now because you ain't going to catch squat. Especially those two big bass down in the corner. And I looked, kind of cocked my head sideways, and I looked at David and I said, bass? Really? Where? And he said, down there in the corner. We'll take you down there. So we walked down there. And when I mean a tight little spot to fish, two people can, well, one person casts, you got to wait till they cast, and then you cast over their head. It's that tight. It's on an embankment, kind of like this. Little pond, fresh water, crystal clear. And they said, those bass. And he pointed, one here, one there, and both of them about 5 pounds apiece. And I looked at them, and I'm looking in the water, and I lift my shades up and put them back down. Lift my shades up, put them back down. And it's like, I know why y'all ain't catching anything, or especially it. And they said, why's that? I said, for one, too many people. They have seen every piece of plastic, every piece of metal, every piece of whatever thrown at them, and they know. I said, bass are smart, smarter than you think. I said, and the other reason is there's too many bait fish right there. I said, so no. I said, but I can still catch them. And of course, at that moment, because they called us old, I just kind of, I don't know, a little bit of fire on me. And I said, well, how about this, boys? I said, how about we make a little wager? I got a crisp $100 bill in my wallet. Now, like I said, I'm in a VA shelter. I've got very little money. I do not have a crisp $100 bill in my back pocket. But I was that confident in my skills as a fisherman that I could catch them. And I said, I just need a brim hook, a small split shot weight, and that's it. I said, I've got the other stuff right here. I said, I will have both of those bass in that bucket in less than 30 minutes. And they said, okay. I said, for both of you? No. Just one. That means I don't have to pay 50 and he has to pay 50 if we lose. But we're not going to lose. I said, okay. So I took my brand new rod and reel that just been bought, and I put the little split shot on there, and I put the brim hook on there, took a piece of bread, squished it on to it, and I was like, okay, I'm looking in the water, and it's like, all right, there's the one I want. I lower the pole in there, and I hook a little brim about that big. Take him, put him in the bucket that's got water in it, and I get a second one. Throw him in the bucket. And I looked at the boys, and it's like, well, you know what? I'm going to get a third one just in case for backup. And they're looking at me like, what? So I get the third one, put it in there, and none of them no more bigger than that. I just cut the hook off, and I take a shiner hook and put it on my line. And then, all right, I said, which one you want me to catch first? That one or that one? And they said, you pick. And I was like, all right, that one over there. And I said, you want to make this a little more interesting? Like I said, I was getting really cocky by this moment. And I said, you really want to make this interesting? I said, how about I give you the count of 10, you start, and if I do not have that bass on my rod and reel line within that 10 count, I'll give you that $100. And he said, okay. And I said, all right, now, when you start counting, I'm going to flip. And he said, okay, so whenever you say, tell me. And he goes, all right, I'm getting ready to start now, 10. And I flip it out there. And I said, I will have it in now. Hooked it up. got him. He wasn't even damn near counting to zero before I had the fish in the bucket. And he's looking at me and like, well, shit. And it's like, all right, here, you want to do double or nothing? I said, I'll give you the count of 5. Needless to say, I caught the second one before he got to zero and threw him in the bucket. And I looked at them 2 kids and I said, as the old saying goes, don't judge a book by its cover. And of course, me and David are high-fiving each other. And it's like, yeah, it showed them little punks. And they walked away.
They pay the $100?
No, I told them they learned a valuable lesson and they could keep their $100. It was one of them things how the good Lord was working that day. And again, that made me smile. But what happened after that is what put the spark or the fire in me to start X-22. Like I said, me and David are sitting there high-fiving, hooping and hollering and everything else. And them fish got excited. Both of them are face down in the 5-gallon bucket. And like I said, they were about 5 pounds apiece. So they ain't little. They start flopping in the bucket. And all of a sudden, that bucket falls over. And like I said, I'm standing on a small embankment. I got my good leg. I got my real leg still at that time. And before I even thought about it, I reached down and grabbed the bucket. There was one fish that slid out of it. The other fish was still in it, and I threw it into the woods. Well, and amongst all that, I lost my balance, and I went zing, flat on my back, and started going down that embankment. Now, with that being said, that fish is going down that embankment at the same time. Its head is facing my feet. The tail is facing toward my face. And at the bottom of this thing is a telephone pole in the water. It has created a little pond on this side of the pole, and then you got the real pond on the other side of the pole. Said all that to say this, sliding down, the fish is right here. We hit that pole, and that fish comes up and literally lands right here. Face down, tail here, and it starts slapping me in the face with the tail and then back into the pond. I am rolling, and I mean absolutely rolling so hard I damn near pissed myself. I mean, it was just, again, I wish we would have had a video camera then, because that would have won the $100,000 video, because, I mean, it was that just unreal. And so me and David got on the way back to the shelter. It's like, man, you know, if we could start some type of company to do that right there, to make somebody smile for a day. I said, wouldn't that be interesting to do with fishing? And like I said, that was April-ish of 18. And so 2 years later, April of 20 is when things kind of really started progressing. I see that video with Nick, and I give him a call. We start talking. He says, you need to start it. And it's like, nope, ain't doing it. And after a little bit, it's like, okay. Then July 3rd at 4:15 in the morning, when I say the good Lord slapped me upside the head, I was physically hit at 4:15 in the morning while I was taking a piss. And he said, boy, this is what you're going to do. This is the name of the company. This is your motto. And this is who's going to help you get started. 4:15, July 5th, I woke up, got to go pee, more information. July 6th, more information at 4:15 in the morning. Now, by then, I'm thinking I'm losing my damn mind. And like I said, I couldn't shut my brain off after the surgery. And now it's like I'm having these, what I'm thinking are crazy dreams or premonitions, whatever you want to call them. And so on the 4th day at 4:15 in the morning, while I'm taking a piss, I'm told to go get a computer. You need a computer. You need a computer. And it's like, I don't have the money. Like I said, I'm living on limited income at this time. And it's like, I know. And yes, you're going to go get it. No, yes, no. I mean, that's how my brain was for hours. And finally that afternoon, I said, okay. I got up, got on a local transit, and took myself to Walmart, walked in there, and walked right back out because all I had was $170 to spend. And with that $170, I'm supposed to be paying my electric bill in 2 days. And if I don't, it's going to get shut off. So it's like, that's where the argument in my brain was to not do this. Anyhow, I get a thing, go check a pawn shop. And I did. And there was exactly one computer with at least the minimum graphics and all the stuff that's needed for what I wanted to do. That was the only one available at out the door, $169. Yeah. And this is when I knew that I was on the right path. As I got back to the house, of course, it's considered a new computer. You load all your information in it. And I'm sitting there sweating bullets because I got exactly $1 in the bank. My electric bill's due in 2 days, and I don't get paid for another 3 after that. So I'm thinking I'm going to be living in the dark for about 3 days. And sitting there doing my thing, and my phone rings, and it happens to be Lansing Water and Light. I'm like, crap, they're wanting their money. Hello, this is Mr. Cone. Yeah, answer all the questions to confirm who I am. And the lady goes, well, I just want to inform you that your electric bill this month's paid for. And I said, excuse me? She goes, well, there was a computer glitch about 3 months ago, and for some reason you were charged double. So you have a positive balance. So most likely the next 3 months, your electric bill will be paid for. Oh, it gets even better. One of the guys that was in the shelter, I had the little bit of money I had loaned him over that 9 month or that 7 month time frame, almost $500. And he knocks on my door and says, hey brother, I don't have all of it. He said, but I got $250 here that's yours, and hands me $250. I mean, I can't make this up. This is the God's honest truth of how this is how it happened. I was like, okay. So day 5, more information. Day 6, more information. And as the good Lord says, you're supposed to rest on the 7th day. Now, like I said, I was getting woke up. Those 6 days in a row, I was woke up at exactly 4:15 in the morning to go pee. Every morning. And I was giving more information each morning. Day 7, I wake up at 8:15 in the morning. And I'm like, okay, what now? It's like, and of course I knew. I called Nick up and I said, hey, brother, are you sure you want me to do this? And he said, absolutely. I said, all right, check this webpage out. And he said, what webpage? And I gave him the address, and he says, holy shit, you did it. And I did all this in Lansing, Michigan, and started in Okeechobee, Florida, and had at that moment no clue on how I was getting down there. But again, how the good Lord provided, it was, here you go. Here you go. Here you go. Here you go. I mean, it was just, and now I got back to Florida, got busy, and ended up, our first client was November of 20. And at that moment, we didn't have a boat. We had 2 fishing rods and 1 tackle box to do what we're supposed to be doing. And at that moment, or the particular day, my VP at the time calls me up and said, hey, we got a guy and his wife needing a day to go fishing, and they want to do it on Sunday. This is Friday night about 9 p.m. And I tell him, I said, we don't have a boat, for one. I said, we don't have the gear, for 2. I said, who is this guy? And then, of course, he tells me Shiloh. I look him up, and it's like, well, shit. And it's like, why is he wanting to go fishing with us? And he said, well, really what has happened is they were going to go fishing on the coast, but because it was short notice, all of the charter captains wanted to break it off in them.
So you're getting into Shiloh. Let me give you my introduction with Shiloh, and then we'll go back to this.
Okay. All right.
So up here, for the last 3 years, I've gone to something called the Patriot Project. Actually, the last, was it 3? 2. Definitely the last 2 years. The Patriot Project up here. It's a ball and fundraiser. And Shiloh, not this past year, the year before that, was I met him for the first time. Dude had the biggest smile in the room. And I'm thinking to myself, man, that guy, he probably has nothing to smile about, and he's got the biggest smile in this room. Like he went through a lot. And I got a picture with him, and I didn't really get a chance to talk to him much. Well, then this next year, we had talked a couple of times on social media, and, we started following each other. And so when I saw him at the, he sent me a message, are you going to the ball? And I said, or the gala, whatever they call it. I said, yeah, I'll be there. I donate, a wooden flag for the charity to raise money. So I'm talking to Shiloh at this VIP party the night before. He introduced me to his buddy from Pennsylvania or something like that. And we're getting along great. And he's telling me his story. And, I'm just like, I'm this far away from Shiloh.
How nonchalantly he tells that story.
Yeah. And he's got, you can tell that, he didn't have his prosthetic ears in, and, but I'm just looking at the guy, and he's smiling the whole time. And I'm just thinking to myself, man, if anybody thinks they had a bad day, they ought to talk to Shiloh, because that dude had a bad day. But he smiles. And then when I decided to do this podcast thing, he was the first veteran I reached out to. I'm like, man, I know you're a motivational speaker. I know you've told your story a million times. Can you tell it to me? And he's like, yep, I'll do it. And then the guy is amazing, good old boy from Texas. And, and so, and obviously he's a mutual acquaintance for both of us. So he comes down to Florida and wants to go fishing. What's
going on? Yeah, at that time was him and Jamie were on a 6-week speaking engagement, bouncing from city to city to city to city, airplane, hotel. You know how it gets. Mm-hmm. And so by the end of the 6 weeks, and they still had a couple of weeks to go, they just needed a day to just veg, is what Jamie said when I talked to her. Anyhow, when Randy called me up and says, hey, can we do this? It's like, well, let me see what I can do. Give me a half an hour to an hour, and I'll call you back. Well, again, I talk about the good Lord, how he works, and we are a faith-based organization. We don't preach it. We talk about it. We'll say a prayer before we get out on the boat. And we'll say a prayer after we do get on the boat or in the woods, whatever it is. But I don't push my religion on you. I just say, this is what happened to me. You can take it with a grain of salt, or you can go, really? And so with that being said, I made 3 phone calls, and in 5 minutes I had a boat. I had all the fishing gear I needed and all the bait supplied for within 5 minutes. And it's like, okay, I call Randy up and say, yes, we're go. Give me their information, and go from there. So Jamie calls me up and said, hey, this is who we are. And it's like, I looked you up. It's like, okay, y'all were kind of famous. It's just a little bit. And it's like, don't care. All I care about is that y'all have a good time. That's it. And at that moment, yes, I looked them up, but I didn't go deep. I seen Shiloh with a couple of pictures of some celebrities, but I knew, hell, the man got blown up. And I mean, it's so his life story is out there. And anyhow, they showed up Sunday morning at our local restaurant called Pogie's. And we ate breakfast that morning, and we were on the boat by 8 a.m. We were going to be on the boat 8 to noon. That was the original plan. And we ended up the first 2 hours stuck on the outside of the lake. The locks were broke, and we were stuck just kind of fishing the rim canal. And we didn't catch but 2 fish in that area. But we weren't meant to catch any fish. We were meant to sit there and talk and just talk. Just to be just a good old boys. My wife and Jamie hit it off really well. One of our other board members at that time, him and his wife were on the board or on the boat with us, and so they all hit it off. I mean, we all just absolutely hit it off. So much so that instead of 4 hours, it ended up they got off the boat at 5 p.m. that night, and they still had to drive back to Cocoa. And so we became friends that day. Well, I say we became friends. We became family that day for 2 reasons. 2 reasons. One, you're talking about Shiloh and his ears. All right. We had been in the rim canal, and so never did we get up to any speed. We're just kind of putzing along. And so once we finally got into the lake and ready to go, I said, all right, hang on, pour the coals to it. And I hammer it down, and all of a sudden I hear, oh, stop. I was like, what? Thinking something happened. So I pulled it back into neutral, and I spun around, and I was like, what the hell? And Shiloh looks at me and says, hold up. And then all of a sudden, without another word, he goes, pop, pop, and sticks them in his pants pockets. And of course, all of us are like, mouths like, okay. And he said, and of course, he sees all of us. Of course, Jamie's used to it, but he sees the rest of it, and he goes, oh, man. He goes, sorry. He goes, I forgot to tell you. He goes, the reason I did that is because the last time I was on a boat, and the captain hammered it down, I was in the back, and I turned my head, and he said, one ear went that way, and one ear went that way.
Those things can't be cheap either.
And he goes, when I got back to my prosthesis, he goes, I told him one ear went that way, and one ear went that way, and the prosthesis said, no, He said, $3,000 went that way, and $3,000 went that way. And he goes, oh. So that part happened. Of course, we're laughing and just cutting up about that. And in that moment, it made me realize that he is that character. He is the individual that takes his, I don't want to say disabilities because they're not. My leg's gone. It's not a disability. Actually, I can do better now than my regular leg.
So you got a prosthetic?
Yes. Oh yeah.
How far down did it get cut off?
I'm above knee. They took it. Okay. I've got 2/3 femur.
So when you first had it cut off, though, did you have the phantom's itches on your?
When I tell people that, and I have done some research, I have done some studies, I've talked to other amputees, and here's something that I don't want to say that it is actual fact, but the facts are there. Like I said, I dealt with this for 21 years. So the pain that I dealt with was for 21 years. All right. So as anything else, the body after a while will get desensitized to a point. So with that being said, me having that injury and dealing with that nerve pain for so long, when they took my leg, it didn't change. In fact, it took away some of the nerve pain. Like right now, I don't have my leg on, but it feels like my 2 feet are sitting like they're supposed to. It feels like my right foot is in a bucket of quicksand, and it's just kind of molded around up to my mid calf. That's what it feels like right now. If I tighten up the muscle, it feels like it's stretched out. If I really concentrate, I can actually feel my big toe and my second toe move.
Hmm.
Now, when I tell people that, they look at me like, it's
that
not
seems
there.
to be that seems to be normal,
Yes.
though. I have a friend
But
that had part of his leg cut off, and same thing.
And so with me, I dealt with that injury and pain for all that time.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody like, say, a Shiloh that gets blown up and they lose a limb like that.
Right.
All right. They're dealing with the trauma pain, number one, and then they're dealing with surgery pain, number two, right then. So the body feels all the pain, all of the nerves, everything else, because it is fresh. Mine, like they say, chronic or acute. I mean, you got a chronic injury or an acute injury. That's basically how I can explain it. Now, do I have pain sometimes? Oh yeah, and I will not confirm or deny that if I stay in my prosthetic for longer than I should, I have probably a 50% or better chance that when I take that thing off, it's going to hurt like a SOB for about 2 hours. But the new leg that I just got, or well, actually I'll get tomorrow, the upper socket, is the best one I've had since I've started walking. And it's when they took my leg, or before they took my leg, I told the doctors, when this is gone and the pain is gone, I said, you're going to have a problem slowing me down. And the orthopedic looked at me and said, okay. And well, February 10th of this year was my 4-year anniversary of them taking my leg. October of this year will be my 4-year anniversary of having my first socket. Now, with that being said, in April, May, June, July, August, September, October. So 3.5 years as of right now. My leg has been gone, or I've been in a prosthetic leg. I pick up socket number 28 tomorrow. And they call me a freak of nature at the VA because of this. They say, we have never seen anybody like you go through as many sockets as you have in such a very short amount of time. I mean, I'm still considered a newbie.
Has the VA been for you? Good.
The prosthetics department, absolutely fantastic. Once we traced it to as being a military injury and all that, the prosthetics department, I make a phone call and I'm in there in a few days. Now, with that being said, there's been a few hiccups here and there, like it always is with the VA. And one of them is my prosthesis tech left the VA about 6 months ago. And he is the only one really since November of 20 to touch my leg to make any sockets for me. So when he told me he was leaving, I went into panic mode. I was like, oh, no, you can't do this to me. And he said, well, here's what you can do. And he told me how I'm able to go outside the VA, the community care thing. He goes, if you want to. And he says, I'm not saying yes, I'm not saying no, but if you want to come to here, you got that opportunity. And it's not that I didn't like everybody at the VA. It's just that Bill understands this brain and this mouth on how that leg works. We can talk to each other in a way that he understands me, I understand him, and he has gotten this leg to work better than it should with what I've had. I mean, to this day, I still have not had one, and I repeat, not one day of physical therapy and to learn how to walk in this prosthetic.
Hmm.
When I walked into the VA PT office and said, "I'm here for therapy." They said, "What you here for therapy for?" And I said, "That." And they said, "What?" And I said, "My leg." And the therapist looked at me and said, "You walked in here?" Like, "Yeah." He goes, "You walked in here." And he goes, "No, you don't understand. That's all we're going to teach you is learn how to walk." I said, I don't know how to walk. I said, "I still walk the way I used to. I kind of still drag it." And they said, "No, you don't understand. We don't have the therapist here to get you beyond that first step," as they say. And so I was like, okay, so I just kind of just have winging it. And it's worked for me for now, but hopefully here soon I will be getting into a therapist that can teach me how to walk straight again. But once I did get my leg, they've had a hard time slowing me down. In fact, the only people that slow me down is, like I said, myself or the good Lord. Most of the time it's myself when I do something stupid, like let the dogs go run in front of me before they go outside and hit the prosthetic. And I have no leg underneath me to stand on, as they say. And I look at the floor, I look at the couch, I look at the floor. And of course, this is all happening in that amount of time. And it's like, that's hard, that's soft. Well, when I went into the couch, my hand went like this between the cushion and the back. And as you can tell, I don't have to do anything with that hand. That finger just kind of falls right there. I have to squeeze it, and let's see here. There we go. There we go. It still sticks out that way. I broke the hell out of the finger. I broke this wrist twice, but in all that, I'm thankful that I'm out of pain. I'm thankful I ain't got to take no narcotics. Thankful for all of that. And my story is, it's unique in some ways, but not in a lot, because of when I started this, it's like, okay, if I'm going to do this, show me that it's going to work. And when I posted online, Facebook, and all that other stuff, in the first 5 days, I received 5 phone calls from 5 different veterans that was going through some type of crisis.
So, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, so the reason why we got connected in the first place, because of Shiloh.
Yes.
You have something pretty big coming up. And
I
wanted you to talk about that. And I also wanted to see if there's any way, if anybody sees this, which right now I have 41 subscribers to my my audio podcast on Spotify. Right. 41. I'm trying to build that up, but on YouTube, Shiloh's video has gotten over, I think, 115 views. Another one has almost 300 views from somebody else. I want to get the viewers and the listeners way up. So when that happens, I want people to be able to say, hey, I want to look into X-22 adventures. So what do you have coming up next weekend?
Well, we have what we call our cast and blast retreat. We had one last year, and this is our second one. I'm going to back up just a bit for just a second and talk about Shiloh. I didn't get to how me and him became brothers that first day. Was where I've got a picture of us, or actually Shiloh and Jamie, up in the front of the boat. And they're literally holding hands with each other between them. They're 2 fishing seats, pontoon boat. You kind of have an idea on what it is. They're up front. And we're cruising along about 30 miles an hour and getting the scenery of Lake Okeechobee. and we're actually in the lake. And I happened to look over about 400 yards away from us was one of the biggest bull gators I have seen in a long time. And I mean a big one. And I look, and before I could get a word out of my mouth, that crazy fool jumps up and takes his hand and goes, I want to wrestle that thing. You know, Shiloh. And of course, before my brain could think what this was saying, I just all of a sudden, right out of my mouth, I was like, Shiloh, you can't do that. And he said, why? I said, dude, you're already missing 3 fingers. And he looked at me and says, I still want to wrestle one. And it's like, okay, well, we can possibly make that happen. Not today, but give us some time. And we did. We actually made that happen. That we took Shiloh gator hunting, and we put 2 alligators on that boat that day. The biggest one was 12'1". I'm talking a stud. And unfortunately, that wasn't Shiloh's gator. He got him a 9-footer, actually, which is better because it's got the meat is a little tender. But yeah, he got him a 9-foot alligator that day. We took him down south and did some iguana hunting and some exotic fishing with peacock bass. And so we've done a few things like that with him. And most of it was to say thank you for what you did for our country. I mean, dude, you got your ass blown up and you lost some guys, and you're sitting here looking at me and you got the biggest shit-eating grin on your face. Then it's like, that's what turns this heart just, I mean, it just melts me. And so me and Shiloh have become friends. We become family. So much so that he yesterday surprised the living shit out of me. And you know the old adage, so it's sometimes it's better to ask for forgiveness than permission. All right. Mm-hmm. I say that because our dear friend Shiloh, he goes, I've been talking to some people here about cast and blast and stuff. And he says, I'm telling them that I'm the ambassador and for X-22 and the national spokesperson. And then it's like, he says that and they're like, oh shit. He goes, do you mind if I tell people that I am an ambassador for X-22 and I'm the national spokesperson? And it's like, you want to what? And he said, dude, I believe in everything you do, what you're doing. I want to be your ambassador. I want to be your national spokesperson. Let's make this happen. And and I mean, that just absolutely. Forgive me. I'm absolutely was floored. As you can tell, I got speechless there for a minute. That doesn't happen to me anymore, hardly. He caught me completely off guard. And he said, let's grow this business. Let's grow this organization to where we can do what other organizations started out to do, and they got too big for their britches and things went sideways. And I told him, I said, I don't want to get that big. I really don't. I want to get big enough to where we have sponsors that each year they'll donate X amount of dollars for X amount of trips. And we can say we're going to be doing a trip a week. It's going to cost this much money, and we know that that entire year is taken care of, and we don't have to worry about it instead of how we're doing it right now. I mean, we're living off a shoestring, and I mean shoestring budget. With all of that said, when Shiloh told me that, it was because he is coming to our second annual Cast and Blast retreat in Okeechobee, Florida. And this one's how the good Lord works is just absolutely crazy. you always strive to make, if you're doing something, especially if you're having multiples of them, you always want to make the next one better than the one before that.
Mm-hmm.
With that being said, this is only our second retreat. And the individuals coming in are absolutely, some of them, again, some of them gave a sacrifice like no other. He got blown up by hand grenades, got saved by his platoon sergeant. That platoon sergeant re-enlists, and 2 years later is KIA. And so he leaves a wife, 2 children, boy and a girl. Bryson and Madison, they were 5 and 3. Well, this retreat, we are bringing in Bryson, the Gold Star son, and Tim No. I think that's how you say his name. Tim, I'm sorry if I didn't say it right, brother. Tim was the one that got saved by Terry Prater in 2005. 2007, Terry lost his life, and Tim and Bryson met each other at the funeral. That's the last time they've seen each other. They are going to be together at our cast and blast for the weekend to reunite, do something that Bryson loved doing with his dad before he was killed.
How old is he now?
And 22. So he's coming in, and we have multiple surprises for all of the guys. Excuse me. But we have a couple of big surprises for those two. I'm not going to spoil the surprise. I can't do it. But I will just say this. Like I said, you try to strive to make next year better or make the next one better. I am already thinking, how in the hell am I going to do that next year when the people we got coming in, including Shiloh? We have AJ Wilkerson. He's an up-and-coming comedian. Served 4 years in the Army, and they diagnosed him with ADHD and autism and said, see ya. I met him last year in Tampa. We became family that day and since then, because he grew up in the same area that I did, but of course, 15 years difference. I think he's 35 now. Maybe, yeah. If he's 35, that being 20-year difference. Anyhow, same stomping grounds of where we grew up. So much so when I met his family in Williston, Florida, and most people have no clue where that's at. It's in the middle of nowhere between Ocala and Gainesville. And I mean, but it's absolutely beautiful area. We got to talking about secret fishing holes. And I said, I've got one that, but since I don't live here anymore, I know where it's at. I will tell you where it's at. So y'all got another one. And I started explaining to her where this fishing hole was at. And before I could get the second sentence finished, she finished it for me. And then she tells me exactly how many ponds are in the area, yada, yada, yada. And then I'm looking at her going, well, shit.
Not that big of a secret then.
I said, how many people know? And she goes, about a half a dozen. I said, it's been kept that secret that long. And she goes, have you drove by it? And it's like, no. She goes, well, when you head home, go that way and check it out. Like, okay. I did. And they're good. You would not have a clue that there are several honey holes in one spot that catches nothing but largemouth bass. And I mean, it's just one of them holes that you can start throwing whatever you throw, you're going to get a hit. First time me and my dad fished it, we caught over 50 fish in 2 hours. I mean, it was insane. So, I mean, fishing is really in my blood. I grew up in Crystal River, right on the Gulf Coast. Summer times, my dad would bring me down to Lake Okeechobee and we'd do shellcracker fishing. So that's why I kind of chose Okeechobee to do our retreats, because it's still South Florida, but you get a little bit of everything in the area. So it allows us to have options
Is
that we can do.
Is Crystal River? Is that where the manatees are? And then you got the little you go down this little river,
Yes,
and
sir.
then it empties into a beautiful crystal clear giant area.
That's my home.
So when we were down, a bunch of us vacationed together. The guy that I told you, I have a friend. He's from Dunedin. We went to this manatee thing, and we were swimming with the manatees. And then he's like, "Come on!" We all had pontoon boats. We went down, we anchored, and then we were going down this little river thing, and then when that thing dumped into this, it was the most beautiful fresh water, or whatever it is, salt water, but the most beautiful fish, and you could see. Oh my God, it was amazing.
Yes,
so
sir.
I've been there.
Yeah.
I've been there.
Okay, well, that's where I grew up. All right. Of course, we probably the same age or close to it. We lived in a different time. Crystal River, like I said, was literally my playground. Kings Bay was my playground. I got into football a little bit, got into baseball a little bit, but the water was where I wanted to be. And so every chance I could, I would be on the water. My dad was teaching me, and of course, I didn't realize it at that moment, but at the age of 6, he was teaching me how to operate this boat. And at 9, he takes me, puts me in the boat, and he says, "I need you to load the boat on the trailer." "Dad, you ain't never let me do that before." He says, "I know you can do it." And I did. He goes, "Okay." We load the boat up and we take it to another spot. He goes, "All right, I want you to unload it." Like, "Dad, I can't." He goes, "I'll back it up. You do the rest." Like, okay, I did. And he says, "Now go through all the check arounds on the motor and all that stuff. What you see me normally do." And I do everything right. He goes, "Okay, I'll see you around 10 o'clock. And this is 8. And it's like, "What do you mean see you around 10 o'clock?" He goes, "Go." He says, "Here's the rules. You can have one friend on the boat with you. You will wear your life jacket, and you cannot go outside of Kings Bay. You have to stop at the mouth of the river." It's like, okay, I can do that. And the reason being is there is, where Kings Bay is, you've been there, there's homes all the way around Kings Bay. You can see every spot on that bay from the road or a house. My dad was a plumbing contractor, and we built half of those homes around Kings Bay. So he knew everybody. If I screwed up, he knew before I could even tell him, type of thing. So at 9, he trusted me to operate a 13-foot wood boat with a 15-horse Johnson on it by myself.
Times are changed. They're different.
Oh, yeah. Oh, God, yeah. At 10, he let me go out to the second marker in the river. At 11, he let me go out to the fourth marker in the river. At 12, he let me go out to the sixth marker. When I turned 13 years of age, I took that wooden boat, 13 feet, with a 15-horse Johnson, 7 miles out in the Gulf of Mexico by myself. Now, granted, was that the smartest thing to do? Probably not, but that was such a sturdy boat, and we would only take it out on damn near perfect days out into the Gulf anyway. So it wasn't like I was in real danger type of thing. And there was always, even when I was going out into the Gulf, the captains, the other marinas, there was eyes on me and whoever else was in that boat at all times, wherever we were. So I got to do that, swim with the manatees, all the skiing in the world. When we got hungry, we just pulled up to this little it's not, it was, I always called it the wagon wheel just because there was a big wagon wheel in the front. I cannot remember the actual name of the place, but they had the best foot-long chili dogs in the world. So we'd pull up there for $2.50. I could get a foot-long chili dog with all the fixings, French fries, and a cold drink. And then we'd pull the boat up, we get up, go eat, get back in the boat, and get back out in there and continue to do that. I did that for 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Yeah, that many years. And finally we got a bigger boat. But I spent my childhood in Crystal River swimming with the manatees and all that good stuff. Now, would I swim with the manatees now in the wintertime? Nope. When I was a kid growing up, there was 25 maybe manatees in the whole Crystal River area. That's it. Maybe 25. If we got to see a manatee, we could look at it. We couldn't get in the water if it was close by. I mean, the rules had changed a little bit now because there's so many of them. But now, Three Sister Springs this year, I think the max that they counted was 996 manatees in Three Sister Springs alone. Now, a little bit of biology. Manatees eat about 300 pounds of seagrass seaweed a day. A full-grown manatee will shit about 60 pounds a day. Now, think about that for a minute. 60 times 996.
That's a lot.
That's a whole lot of shit.
Yep. I swam in it.
No. Summertime? Absolutely. I do it because there's enough manatees now that stay in the springs year round that I'll do it in the summertime all day long. But no, getting back to our cast and blast. We got Shiloh coming in. We got AJ coming in. We got Bryson. We got Tim. Who else is coming? The red fishing team from Texas. Shiloh got me in touch with them. We have a retired law enforcement officer that he has seen enough shit in his life that nobody should see, including he was the second cop in on Columbine. Yeah. Mark, I love him to death. And of course, all of us are a little twisted in one way or another. He was the second in on Columbine. He's protected 3 presidents. He's protected the Dalai Lama for 7 days. And he spent multiple years undercover chasing Pablo Escobar. I mean, yeah. Nick Rand, the guy that got me started in this, he damn near drowned in the South Pacific trying to do the world's toughest road in 23. I'm trying to think who else. Oh, DB Fugate. He is running for District 22, Florida, U.S. Congress. He's an Air Force veteran. And then I'm trying to think who else. Couple other guys. Right off the top of my head, I don't remember.
So if anybody wants to, I'm going to have to get going here soon.
Yeah.
But if anybody is coming down to Florida, you're good with the Yankees coming down there?
Yeah. Oh yeah. We in fact we got 1, 2, 3 Yankees coming down this time.
And how can people get in touch with you guys? What's your website, phone number, any of that stuff?
Oh yeah. Website is X- for some reason. I put the dash in there because I'm Air Force and it kind of looked like, type of aircraft type of thing. That's why I put the dash in there. If you don't put the dash, it might take you to another website. So anyhow, X-22adventures.org. You'll go to our webpage. You can find us on Facebook under X-22 Adventures. Instagram is X-22 ANFO, I think. Let me make sure of that before I nope, can't do it that way. Stop, save. No, dang it. All right, here we go. It is, make sure, SCX22ANF. That is our Instagram page. My email is s.cone, C-O-N-E, at x-22adventures.org. Phone number is area code 863-532-0989, or that's my personal. My business is 863-801-7729. Any of those you can reach me at. Facebook, like I said, X-22 Adventures. And I'm looking forward to talking to some people. I'm looking forward to our cast and blast next weekend. You see,
I'm going to be sending you down one of my flags. So,
okay. Well, this Engle cooler right here, these rods right here. I can't get, there we go. These rods right here, all of them are giveaways, including that cooler. There is $300 in tackle inside that Engle cooler. And I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 rods that's not in the picture. I have 1, 2, 3 more rods coming to us that are custom made for a couple of our individuals. Kind of had to figure out who those were. Tackle boxes. And so we're going to give all that stuff away. They're going to get to go bow fishing on Lake Okeechobee on Friday night and kill some iguanas with our AR pellet rifles and go after an exotic fish or two. And
nice. And you do this though, what, year round?
Yes,
your fishing trips.
We have fishing trips. We are fixing to get back into hunting. Hogs, one, coyotes, another. We're just trying to work through some of the kinks. But yeah, fishing right now and iguana hunting is our big things that we do. Like I said, what we do on right now, we post all of our events that we're doing on Facebook. And we will do a random draw out of those people that apply for whatever we're doing at that time. And if 2, 3, 4, how many ever it is that get to go, it's no cost to them once you show up to us. Once you get to us, it is zero cost. I mean, zero cost.
Awesome.
All the gear is applied for, all the bait, all the food, drinks, all of that. Like the Cast and Blast next weekend, they don't have to pay for anything until they get here. It's done. Once they get here, everything is taken for Thursday night through Sunday.
Well, go ahead,
Joe. I was gonna say thank you for having me on.
I wanted to thank
get the word out.
I wanted to thank you, Steve, for first of all for telling your story. I mean, being homeless on the streets of Michigan and the drug addiction and all that stuff, and look at you now. I mean, we all deserve a second chance in life, and it looks like you got it, and you're living your best life, which as veterans, we know, especially for those that that were killed in battle, the best way to honor them is to live our best life. It's not living in a shelter and addicted to pain pills. It's doing what you do right now, and I love it. That's why I wanted to tell the story.
Thank you. And when I tell people, it's like I look back and just 5 years ago, I mean, literally 5 years ago, if somebody would have come up and said, "Hey, dude, this is what you're going to be doing in 5 years," I'd have looked at them and said, "You need to be in the Luty bin like I do." Because
I wish somebody would come tell me in 5 years I'm going to be down in Florida fishing for a living. That'd be a great life. And I want to say to Shiloh Harris, if you see this, you could be my brand ambassador too, man. I'll make you my ambassador.
He is he's a hell of a dude. And
I know he is.
I'm thankful to call him my brother. And this organization brought us together, and all by the good graces of God. And I'm just a vessel. And do I enjoy what I do now? Oh, absolutely. If I could have met the 22-year-old me I would be telling that 22-year-old, go ahead and get your captain's license. Go ahead and do this, and you're going to live outside and enjoy life. But
Right.
I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing now. And saving lives is what that right there is all about. Crossing out the 22 suicides a day, X-22. And we know that number is higher, but 22 is our mantra, and we're losing them every day. That's just our veterans. Our first responders is the same amount of numbers. So I started this to slow that rate down and to say thank you for what you've done for your country and community.
You're doing God's work. You're doing God's work, my friend.
Thank you. And it is. It's when I try to do it myself, I fall flat on my face. When I say, okay, I give up. It's yours. You do what you want. And well, we've got right now probably close to $4,000 in giveaways.
Awesome.
Right now, and we're not done.
Yep.
It's blessed. The few people in my life when I was at my darkest that still believed in who I was, I'm thankful for it. They know who they are. And there's just a couple. I mean, literally just a couple of people that when I was living on the streets and in that shelter believe in me that I'm better than that.
Well, I'll tell you what, brother, I believe in you, and I know you're doing good things. And
Thank you.
I'm proud to be able to share your story and hopefully get some people to come down to Lake Okeechobee and do some fishing.
Absolutely.
So with that said, I'm going to have to cut it short. This has been a great hour and 41 minutes. So thank you very much. And everybody out there, when you go down to Florida, go visit Steve Cohn and X-22 Adventures. So, Steve, I will talk to you soon, my friend.
Thank you, brother. Thanks, Joe. Appreciate it all. Have a good one.
You too. Bye.
Bye.